Sewing curves. Sewing curves can be a bit of a challenge, especially when the curve is pretty tight, like this line that you'll be transferring to your sample. When you're sewing curves, you simply want to guide the fabric, and you may have to slow your stitching down until you feel like you're in control. The goal is, of course, not to have corners in a curve, but to have smooth stitching. So I'm going to insert my fabric so that my needle will start slightly into the line. I'll reverse first. I really realized the last video I forgot to tell you, lower the presser foot. Never try to sew with that presser foot up. You will have a mess. All right, press your reverse button, sew in reverse to the beginning of the line, and now we'll proceed. So as I sew this curve, I'll try to keep my hands out of the way. I'm anticipating the curve as it approaches, and I'm simply gently turning the fabric so that my line stays in the center of the presser foot. Okay, I'm approaching the other end so that I'm going to back stitch. All right, and then sew forward, bring my needle up to its highest position, raise the presser foot, take off my sample, snip my threads, leaving thread tails. Now, this one is quite a bit like the last one, so I'm going to now demonstrate this tighter curve and see, so you can see how that goes. You'll, of course, do all four on your sample so that you can get good at this. All right, starting in from the line, lower your presser foot. The drawn line or traced line is centered with the middle of your presser foot. Go backward first. So backward. It goes pretty slowly backward, so it's hard to mess up there. Now, as you approach the tight curve, just slow down. See how I'm not going nearly as fast, and I'm doing a little more turning of the fabric. Still keeping it centered, that line centered. Okay. There we go. And then when it evens out a little bit, I can go a little faster. Go to the end, back stitch a few stitches, and then complete. I'll go ahead and finish my sample, but I wanted you to see that tight curve first. This one's a little bit tight as well. Okay. Backward. Snip. One more. So when you're sewing your curve sample, it really doesn't matter which end you start from. Okay. Now, for nice and neat samples, you do want to trim all of these threads off, which is pretty simple to do with these little thread snips. Nice and tidy work is what we're after. All right, so there you can see from the other side my stitching. Okay, and I got a little bit off track right there. So if I were making a garment, I would need to go back in and make sure I was exactly accurate there. I could start my stitching here, try again in my stitching here, and then just remove the errant stitches there. All right, that's sewing curves.